What if the reason nothing has shifted in your life is not because God is silent, but because there are words He's been waiting to hear, and you've never said them? Most chosen ones pray, most speak to God, but very few speak these words, and that's where everything breaks open. You didn't click this by accident. You're here because something inside you is tired, not physically tired, but spiritually worn down, tired of doing all the right things and still feeling empty, tired of praying without feeling movement, tired of faith that looks alive on the outside but feels dry on the inside. And here's the truth most people never say out loud. Routine faith can slowly numb the soul. Religion can keep you busy while intimacy slips away. You can know the language, follow the structure, repeat the prayers, and still feel distant from God. And it's not because God pulled away, it's because something essential has been missing. There is a gap, a silent distance, between performing faith and living connection. God is not moved by how correct you sound, how long you pray, or how polished your words are. Heaven does not respond to performance. Heaven responds to surrender. And that's where everything changes. Because there are 8 words, simple words, uncomfortable words, words that don't sound impressive at all, yet when they are spoken from the right place, they shift atmospheres, realign destinies, and unlock movement in the unseen. Most people never say them because these words cost something. They require honesty. They demand depth. They pull you out of spiritual autopilot. But you're not most people. You're a chosen one, and chosen ones are not called to skim the surface. They are called to go deeper, where faith stops being routine and becomes fire. What you're about to hear is not motivational language, and it's not religious noise. It's a doorway. And once you understand why these words matter, you won't be able to pray the same way again. Before we begin, pause for a moment. If you feel that this message is already speaking to you, like this video, subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment 99 below, not as a number, but as a declaration. In Scripture, 99 represents the moment before completion, the place where the shepherd leaves everything to pursue the one. When you write 99, you're saying, I'm ready to be found at a deeper level. Now listen closely, because the first word is not dramatic, it's not long, but it's the word that decides everything. The first word is not loud, it doesn't announce itself, it doesn't sound spiritual, deep, or impressive. In fact, it's so simple that most people overlook its weight. But this word is the moment where power is either released or delayed. The word is yes, and yes has nothing to do with perfection. Heaven is not waiting for you to clean yourself up, get stronger, or finally feel qualified. Heaven is waiting for permission. Yes is not a declaration of confidence. It is an act of access. It is the moment you stop negotiating and open the door. Most people think God moves when they are ready. That's a lie that keeps destinies frozen. God moves when there is agreement. Readiness comes later. Power follows surrender, not the other way around. This is why so many chosen ones feel stuck even though they are praying. They are asking God to move without first giving Him permission to lead. They want clarity before obedience, confirmation before commitment, safety before surrender. But heaven doesn't operate on conditions. Heaven responds to alignment, and alignment begins with yes. Yes says, I don't fully understand, but I won't resist. Yes says, I release control before I receive explanation. That's why this word is dangerous. It dismantles the illusion of control. It strips away the need to manage outcomes. It exposes where fear has been masquerading as wisdom. And here's what most people never realize. Every delay in your life is connected to a yes that hasn't been spoken yet. Not because God is withholding, but because He will not violate your will. Heaven is respectful. It waits. There is something specific, something precise, that the Spirit has been nudging you toward. And you already know what it is. A conversation you keep postponing. A door you were told to close but didn't. A step forward that scares you because it doesn't come with guarantees. This is not about saying yes to everything. It's about saying yes to the one thing you've been circling around, the thing you keep praying about while avoiding obedience. Yes is the line between observation and participation, between watching God move and becoming part of how He moves. The moment you say it, you step out of theory and into flow. And here's the unsettling truth. The longer you delay this yes, the louder the internal tension becomes. That restlessness you feel is not confusion. It's pressure from an unopened door. Heaven is leaning in, waiting, not demanding, not forcing, just watching to see if you will finally release what you've been gripping. Because when yes is spoken, power doesn't rush in like noise. It settles in like authority. And once you say it, nothing stays neutral anymore. Something shifts, something responds. And what happens next depends on whether you're ready to face the next word, because yes only opens the door. What follows will test how deep your surrender truly goes. The second word feels even more uncomfortable than the first, because it attacks something most chosen ones secretly protect. The image of being strong, being capable, being the one others lean on. This word doesn't sound heroic, it sounds exposed. And that's exactly why it opens heaven. The word is help. Not explained, not dressed up, not justified, just help. Somewhere along the way, strength became your identity. You learned how to carry pressure without showing it, how to function while hurting, how to keep moving even when your inner world was collapsing. And people admired that. But what they didn't see is that self-strength slowly replaced surrender. You didn't stop believing in God, you just stopped leaning. And heaven noticed, not with disappointment, but with patience. Because the helper only moves where he's invited. The illusion you've been living under is this idea that weakness disqualifies you, that admitting need diminishes authority. But in the spiritual realm, the opposite is true. Weakness is not exposure, it's access. It creates space, and space is what heaven fills. Long prayers often come from the mind. Short prayers come from the core. When someone finally whispers help, there's no performance left. No script, no strategy, just truth. And truth is the fastest language heaven understands. This is why moments of real breakthrough rarely happen during polished speeches. They happen in seconds of surrender, in the car, in the shower, in the silence after you realize you can't carry this anymore. The helper is not activated by confidence. He is activated by honesty, and honesty requires humility. Help is not a collapse. It is alignment. It's the moment you stop pretending you are self-sufficient and step back into your design. You were never meant to manage everything alone. That's not strength. That's resistance disguised as discipline. And here's what's rarely said. The longer you avoid asking for help, the heavier everything becomes. Not because God withdrew, but because you chose to carry what was never yours to hold. Help is not a cry of defeat. It's a signal of trust. It says, I recognize my limits and I honor your presence. That's authority. Spiritual authority is not about control. It's about alignment. And alignment happens when you stop pushing and start inviting. Right now, there is something specific draining you. Not everything. One thing. One area where you've been forcing movement instead of asking for assistance. You've been speaking to yourself more than you've been speaking to heaven. And the helper has been waiting quietly, not to rescue you from responsibility, but to partner with you in power. Because the moment you say help, pressure lifts, clarity sharpens, and heaven steps closer. But here's the tension. If you refuse this word, you'll keep mistaking exhaustion for calling. And the next word will expose that even deeper, because once you invite help, something else must change. The third word is the one most people avoid, not because they don't believe in God, but because they sense the price attached to it. This word doesn't threaten your faith, it threatens your comfort, and that's why it carries weight. The word is change. Not change around me, not change my circumstances, change me. This is where many prayers quietly fail. People ask for relief while protecting the very patterns that created the pain. They want blessing without disruption, increase without adjustment, elevation without refinement. But God is not interested in decorating what He intends to transform. Blessing improves a season, transformation rewrites a life, and heaven always prioritizes the person over the situation. That's because situations can shift overnight, but unhealed patterns will recreate the same struggle in a new form. The Spirit doesn't just respond to problems, He responds to permission. When you say change, you are not asking for improvement. You are granting access to motives, access to habits, access to the internal loops you've normalized because confronting them feels costly. This is where things get uncomfortable, because transformation requires truth, and truth disrupts familiarity. God does not confront you to shame you. He confronts what is shaping you, the reactions you excuse, the cycles you repeat, the coping mechanisms that once protected you but now limit you. And here's the revelation most people miss. God always starts with the inner world because that's where authority is formed. If He changes the environment without changing the internal structure, the pressure of blessing becomes destructive. This is why delays are sometimes mercy. Because premature blessing on an untransformed foundation doesn't produce freedom. It produces collapse. Change is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming aligned with who you were meant to be before fear, trauma, and survival strategies took over. Deep renewal is not emotional, it's structural. It reshapes how you think under pressure, how you respond when triggered, how you choose when no one is watching. And this is where many chosen ones hesitate. They are willing to be used, but not examined. Willing to serve, but not exposed. Willing to advance, but not stripped of what no longer belongs. But the Spirit does not renovate while you're holding on to the old blueprint. When you say change, you are releasing your attachment to familiarity, even when familiarity feels safe. And safety is not the same as alignment. Right now, there is something you've been asking God to fix externally, while He's been waiting for permission to address internally. And the tension you feel is not resistance, it's preparation. Because once change begins, nothing stays superficial. And once this word is spoken sincerely, the next one becomes unavoidable. Because transformation doesn't happen in isolation. It demands direction. The fourth word is where surrender becomes visible. This is the point where faith stops being an idea and starts becoming movement. And for many chosen ones, this is the word that exposes how much control is still being held. The word is led. Not guide me, not advise me, lead me. Direction and leadership are not the same thing. Direction gives you information. Leadership demands submission. Direction lets you choose whether to follow. Leadership assumes authority. And this is where tension rises, because most people want God's input without releasing the steering wheel. They want insight while preserving control. But the Spirit does not co-pilot, He leads. Saying lead means you are no longer asking for options. You are relinquishing outcomes. You are stepping out of prediction and into trust. This word dismantles the obsession with timing, clarity, and visible progress. It forces you to release the illusion that managing everything keeps you safe. In reality, control only creates pressure. Trust creates stability. Reroutes feel like rejection until you realize they are protection. Delays feel like denial until you see what they prevented. Closed doors feel like loss until you understand what would have cost you if they stayed open. Leadership often looks like interruption. It disrupts your plans without asking for permission. And that's why this word is rarely spoken honestly. Because once you say lead, you forfeit the right to insist on your preferred outcome. You allow God to rewrite timelines, to remove paths that looked logical but carried hidden consequences, to slow you down when momentum feels urgent. And here's the revelation. The safest place you can stand is not where things make sense. It's where you are aligned. Alignment doesn't always feel comfortable, but it is always secure. When the Spirit leads, He accounts for what you cannot see. He navigates unseen variables. He blocks what would have drained you. He positions you where growth will stretch you but not destroy you. And this is where fear tries to intervene. Fear says control equals safety. Faith says surrender equals covering. Right now, there is a door you're trying to keep open out of logic, even though peace left a while ago. There is a direction you're forcing because it aligns with your plans, not because it aligns with your spirit. Saying lead means accepting that you may not recognize the destination until you arrive. It means trusting movement without visibility. And once you release control, something unexpected happens. Pressure lifts. The need to predict fades. You stop chasing certainty and start walking with confidence. Because when God leads, even detours carry purpose. But this word sets something else in motion. Because once leadership is accepted, the next word exposes what must be revealed along the way. The fifth word is quiet, but it is invasive. It doesn't arrive with force, it enters with permission, and that's why it changes everything. The word is search, not because God lacks information, not because anything is hidden from Him. God already knows. This word is not about discovery, it is about consent. It is the moment you stop defending yourself and allow truth to move freely. Search is dangerous because it removes the last layer of control, the one that hides behind silence. It opens doors you learn to keep shut, not because you're evil, but because survival taught you how to lock pain away and keep functioning. Hidden rooms are rarely sinful at first. They are emotional. Memories you never processed, beliefs you formed in pain, reactions you normalized because confronting them felt overwhelming. When you say search, you are not inviting accusation, you are inviting illumination. Light does not enter to shame, it enters to heal. Conviction is not punishment. It is precision. It identifies what is misaligned so freedom can be restored. Condemnation pushes you away. Conviction draws you closer. And this is where many people confuse the two. They resist being searched because they fear exposure. But exposure in the Spirit is not humiliation. It is release. Healing cannot begin where honesty is absent. And honesty is not about confessing everything at once. It's about stopping the internal editing, letting the Spirit see what you stop talking about, the thoughts you correct in public but entertain in private, the emotions you spiritualized instead of processed. Search dismantles performance because performance cannot survive light. And that's why it heals deeply. It touches root systems, not symptoms. It reaches places prayer routines never reach. Places where identity was distorted, where trust was fractured, where fear quietly rewrote your boundaries. And the Spirit does not rush this process. He moves at the speed of safety. He reveals what you are ready to release, but only if you give permission. Saying search is saying, I will no longer protect what is poisoning me. That is courage. That is maturity. That is authority. Because freedom does not come from hiding better, it comes from yielding deeper. And when light fills those hidden rooms, something shifts internally. You feel lighter without knowing why, clearer without explanation. But this word also prepares you for something more intimate, because once the hidden is revealed, a voice must be heard, and the next word changes how you listen. The sixth word shifts everything inward. This is where faith stops being one-sided and becomes relational. The word is speak, and it sounds simple, but it exposes one of the most overlooked tensions in spiritual life. Most people talk to God constantly, but very few listen to Him intentionally. Talking feels productive. Listening feels vulnerable. Talking keeps you in control of the moment. Listening requires availability, and availability is costly. We've been trained to fill every silence, to prove devotion with words, to measure spirituality by how much we say. But intimacy is not built through volume, it's built through attention. Noise doesn't just come from the outside. It comes from habits, expectations, internal narratives that never pause long enough to let truth surface. Distraction slowly becomes spiritual deafness, not because God stopped speaking, but because the environment became too loud to hear Him. The Spirit does not compete for attention. He waits for space. When you say speak, you are not commanding God to talk. You are repositioning yourself to listen. Silence is not empty. It is prepared ground. It is the posture that tells heaven, I am present. Availability is not passive. It is active surrender. It is choosing to quiet what demands attention so you can hear what gives direction. This is why many people feel distant even while praying. They speak without stopping. They ask without waiting. They move without listening. And intimacy never develops. Relationship requires response, not monologue. When the Spirit speaks, it is rarely loud. It is precise, a nudge, a knowing, a sudden clarity that wasn't there seconds before. But you will miss it if your inner world is constantly filled. Listening requires courage because it may reveal something you didn't plan to hear. Correction, confirmation, redirection, comfort. But every one of those deepens connection. Saying speak is choosing relationship over routine. It is trusting that God's voice carries what your effort never could. And when you begin to listen, patterns shift, decisions sharpen, confusion thins. You stop forcing answers and start receiving alignment. But here's the quiet tension. Once you truly hear His voice, something else becomes unavoidable. Because what is spoken will eventually require release. And the next word determines how much freedom you're willing to walk in. The seventh word is the one almost no one wants to pray, yet it is the one heaven responds to with precision. This word does not feel safe. It does not feel empowering at first. It feels final. The word is break, and the fear around this word comes from misunderstanding. People think breaking means losing themselves, being damaged, reduced, or undone. But in God's pattern, breaking is never destruction. It is preparation. Nothing in Scripture multiplies before it is broken. Not because God enjoys pain, but because wholeness that refuses surrender cannot carry increase. Anointing does not rest on what is protected by pride. It rests on what has been yielded. Brokenness precedes authority, because authority cannot coexist with self-reliance. Pride doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like independence. Fear doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like control. False security doesn't always look sinful. Sometimes it looks like comfort. And these things quietly block flow. They limit capacity. When you say break, you are not asking God to harm you. You are asking Him to remove what is limiting you, to dismantle what you leaned on instead of Him, to fracture the internal structures that kept you functioning but not free. Breaking is not about pain for pain's sake. It is about access. A sealed vessel cannot pour. A guarded heart cannot receive. God breaks what he intends to fill. He breaks the lie that you must stay strong to be useful. He breaks the fear that keeps you silent when truth should be spoken. He breaks the identity you built around survival so your true calling can emerge. And this process is precise. God never breaks randomly. He breaks intentionally. He touches the exact point where resistance lives, where self-protection became habit, where independence replaced intimacy, and what feels like loss becomes release. What feels like exposure becomes clarity. What feels like weakness becomes capacity. Because once something is broken, it is no longer rigid. It can be shaped, molded, expanded. Breaking is how God reshapes you without replacing you. It removes distortion, not design. And here's the hidden truth. The pain you fear is often shorter than the stagnation you tolerate. Break opens space. Space invites oil. Oil produces movement. But this word leads directly into the final hunger. Because once breaking happens, something inside you begins to crave overflow. And the last word determines how far that hunger will go. The eighth word is not quiet. It doesn't whisper. It pulls. It stretches. It awakens something restless in the soul. This word is not about lack. It is about hunger. And the word is more. Not more things. Not more attention. Not more success. More of Him. Hunger is the magnet of heaven. Not discipline. Not consistency. Hunger. Heaven is never drawn to satisfaction. It responds to desire. This is where many believers slowly lose momentum without realizing it. They confuse stability with maturity. They settle into what once felt powerful and call it growth. But yesterday's encounter was never meant to sustain today's calling. What fed you then cannot fuel you now. God does not recycle encounters. He invites pursuit. Settling feels comfortable because it removes tension. Contending feels costly because it keeps you reaching. And yet, contending is where overflow lives. Overflow never visits those who are full of themselves. It visits those who remain thirsty. The Spirit is not offended by your hunger. He is drawn to it. More is not a complaint. It is alignment. It says, I refuse to live on memory when living water is available. Hunger sharpens perception. It keeps your spirit alert. It prevents stagnation. Without hunger, faith becomes historical. With hunger, it becomes alive. This is why some people plateau spiritually, while others keep expanding. Not because God favors them, but because they keep asking. They keep seeking. They refuse to normalize distance. More is a refusal to settle for what once moved you, when heaven is offering what will transform you now. Ongoing thirst is not instability, it is devotion. It is the posture of those who understand that depth has no ceiling. Pursuit is not exhausting when it's fueled by desire. It's energizing. It keeps your inner world awake. And here's the subtle urgency. If you don't cultivate hunger intentionally, complacency will form naturally. More is a decision, a daily one. It is choosing to stretch again, to lean forward, to ask again, to knock again. And when this word is spoken sincerely, something stirs that cannot be undone. Because once you taste overflow, you can never be satisfied with shallow waters again. And now, every word you've heard converges into one final moment, one closing truth that determines how you walk forward from here. This is the moment everything converges, not into information, but into decision. What you've heard is not a list of ideas to admire. These are keys. Keys don't explain doors, they open them. And every word you encountered was never meant to stay in your mind. They were meant to move into your mouth, your posture, your daily walk. Yes, help, change, lead, search, speak, break, more. 8 words, but one invitation. A life yielded, not visited. These words demand more than agreement, they demand ownership. Because heaven is not activated by moments of inspiration, it responds to lives that are aligned. Most people will hear messages like this and feel something, then return to the same patterns tomorrow. Not because they are evil, but because they are comfortable. But you are not here for comfort. You are here because something inside you refuses to stay shallow. Most will never say these words out loud. They will think them. They will admire them. They will delay them. But you can speak them. And when you speak them, you are not informing God. You are positioning yourself. Silent belief never shifted atmospheres. Spoken surrender does. Say them when it costs you. Say them when it scares you. Say them when your voice shakes. Because these words are not about sounding spiritual. They are about becoming available. And availability is power. Heaven does not need to be impressed. It needs access. These words don't impress heaven, they invite it. And when God hears them from a surrendered chosen one, he does not hesitate. He moves. So don't leave this moment unchanged. Don't scroll past what was meant to mark you. Declare it. Type it. Claim it. Comment this sentence now, not later, not quietly. I choose surrender over control. Let it be public. Let it be bold. Let it seal this moment, because this is not the end of a video. It's the beginning of movement. Walk in it. Speak it. Live it. Heaven is listening.